I teach about connecting with your children in my course, Do You Hear Me? Staying Connected in the Chaos, because it's so important to connect before you correct. And so I remember reading a book when my children were younger, and it's called Sticking to, Getting With, and Watching Over. And it was a book written by Black psychologists about parenting African American children. And so it really was what I took from it was that you need affection, protection, and correction. And I visualized it as a three-legged stool. So you can have all the love and all of the protection, say, but if you don't take time to correct them
Mm.
and teach them the proper way to go, the stool's not going to stand. And if you're overcorrecting, like you spend a lot of time telling them what they're doing wrong, and maybe protecting them, like not allowing them to learn how to do things on their own and potentially make mistakes. If you're doing that and then don't have the affection, again, the stool can't stand. So those three elements are very important. And so I know that children, they can't learn from us if they don't feel connected to us and don't
Right.
feel like we're coming from a place where we're really looking out for their
Mhm.
good. And so I teach about five principles in that course. Do you hear me? Staying connected in the chaos. And so I'll share the first couple. So the first one is make room for the magic. And when I'm talking about magic, that's magnetic, authentic, gracious, intentional connection. So in order to do that, you've got to be available and attentive. So make those moments in your day or in your evening, if you have a school age child, to look, listen, and learn from your child. Like, be open to the fact that you can learn something from your child.
Right.
A lot of times we think kids, they're just self-centered. They haven't been here that long, so what could they know compared to you? But they can really change your perspective about things, so be open to that. And then my favorite tool of positive discipline is special time. And so that's when you really set aside time in your day with your child. It's certainly very easy to do when they're younger, when they don't have extracurricular activities and that they're involved in. But carve out some time every day. And for young children, because of their attention span, you really can't have a long period of time. It can maybe 15 minutes. But that's a time where, and you really ought to set a timer, in fact, where you're not going to check your phone, you're not going to answer your phone. If there are any other people in your house, you're not going to be talking to them. You're going to be focused on this child, and you're going to play whatever game they want to play. And you're going to play by their rules. And it's just really fun to just ask them questions. Like, I can remember when one of my sons was particularly interested in Thomas the Tank Engine. And so we'd build the track and
Mhm.
talk about that. And then we'd also talk about where are they going? What are the people going to be doing? Are they going to the circus? Or whatever? But let your child tell you the way it's going to be. Like, I let him decide how the track was going to be built, and those kinds of details as part of the time that you're spending. And so what it does is really helps you to really get to know your child's head and heart in a way that you might not in the normal activities of the day, but they also get to see you in a different light as well. You're not just the boss, the
Mhm.
one that tells them what they can't do. You're a person with feelings, and conversations will come up. And so you pick activities that are interactive. Like, you wouldn't necessarily sit and watch TV and nobody's saying anything, everybody's focused on the screen. You'd want to do something where you're going to be talking. And as uh, your children get older, you can spend a longer amount of time, but maybe you only get to do it once a week because you're like your teenager,
Right.
right? For example. But then it could be an hour that you spend with
Right.
them. And I've had people do it different ways. Even I've had some people that, have teens and they have special time. It's at bedtime, so they come and spend 15 minutes right before bed. That's their special time.
Right.
But it really helps your child feel valued. And the tempting thing is when they are misbehaving or having temper tantrums, you might not want to give them their special time. But the fact of the matter is they're probably crying out for connection and probably need special time that day more than any other. And so I really like that. It really helps to smooth over some of the bumps in the relationship. And then, of course, you just get to know so much about your child.
I love that. I love the principles that you teach. And I think that sometimes parents say, oh my gosh, it's hard to implement. And we've talked about this of kind of being the DMV and the rat race, right? And I think that I love the idea of the three legs, right? Thinking about a stool, right? And just looking at those perspectives. And I think some parents think, hey, I don't have enough time. I think if they do all those things, they're actually like there's some burnout. And I think that how do parents tend to themselves? What are some things and practical, like top practical tips that you have navigated and yourself, but also have really shared with other parents or seen them implement those things that hey, they've done all this with their kids, right? And they're there. I love the idea of scheduling appointments and having, I think it's really good for teenagers to have at bedtime, like, hey, let's kind of come into mom and dad's room and let's have 15 minutes to decompress and connect. And so, what would
Hmm.
be some top practical tips for reclaiming balance? I think that there's not a parenting handbook. The dynamics in every household are different. And I think that one of the things I see is really big is balance. I know that today is going to
Hmm.
be different than tomorrow. This week's going to be different than next week. But what are some
Hmm.
things that you have seen are top practical tips for
Hmm.
someone reclaiming their balance in their household as they're making a transition and shift in their parenting? Um, that can really help them kind of give them the gas to say, I can do this. And what have you seen that has worked with your clients and even for yourself when you were parenting younger kids, since you have older?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, first and foremost, eat right and sleep right for sure. You really have to tend to your body if you're going to be pouring out and serving and also taking care of your own needs throughout the day. So, sleep is underrated. Get
Oh,
plenty of
yes.
rest and create a plan for that to make sure that happens. And then also practice self-care regularly. I mean, like every day, because we really have to get out of that mindset where we think that self-care is some major extravagant pampering routine that you have, something you have to go away to do. And uh, it's something that you can do for yourself every day, and there are different ways to show self-care or to practice self-care for yourself. Uh, Saying no is a form of self-care. Being clear about what you're able to do. I mean, it's not saying no for no's sake, but to honor yourself
Yeah.
and creating small pockets of time for yourself. I remember when my children were in elementary school, they had something called DEAR, or Drop Everything and Read time. They had that in school. And so I implemented that at home. Like, we're going to stop. And obviously, they needed it for their reading skills, but mama needed a break. That's self care, right? So figure out how to do those kinds of things for yourself. Also, the way you schedule your time during the day. Make sure you don't have appointments back to back to back to back where you don't have any breathing room. Putting that buffer in between those appointments or activities is a form of self-care.
Say that
Just
again. Say, because I think that a lot, say that again. Please say that again. Please say that
Yeah,
again.
you have to add a buffer between appointments and activities. That's a form of self-care. You're being kind to yourself. That's what self-care really is. It's about respecting and honoring and being kind to yourself. And you can do that throughout the day. It does not require a bubble bath or a trip to a salon or an extravagant trip. It's little things you can do hour by hour to honor yourself
Right.
and to refill your own cup before you continue pouring out. There's also breathing exercises. Again, that's something you can sit there and do, take a moment and do that. Uh, and that's not major. You don't even have to go to another room. Self-care can also look like stepping away from a situation, like when your children are just really wound up, to the extent that you can safely step away. This might be when you would let them watch a 30-minute show on PBS or something like that. Maybe you don't regularly have them watching TV or you feel guilty about that, but in that moment, if you feel like you can't cope, you need some breathing room and it's safe to do so. It's safe to allow your children to be there. They're old enough, mature enough to sit there and watch and step away. And you don't have to go far, but you can give them that moment so that you can catch your breath. Uh, Also, ask for help. I mean, be specific and tell because you have parents and friends and other family members who are around, and they don't want to see you struggling. But if you're not talking about it, they think you got it, right? And so they're around. They want to know, but you need to tell them what they could do to help. And a big thing is to tune out judgment from other people. And whether it's real or imagined, stop holding yourself to this high standard when you're only human. And some days you're going to be firing on all cylinders, and some days you're going to be dragging. And just understand that.
I love that you just gave so many jewels because, I often hear parents say, "Oh, we had at 10 o'clock. Went to the pediatrician," or "Oh, we went to the dentist," and that might be their day off. And then
Hmm.
when they really need time off, they're like, but I have to do this. I have to do this for the children. I have to do that. And so I really
Hmm.
like that you emphasize a buffer. I think that even for the kids, it's like,
Hmm.
oh, I have a day off, but hey, do I have to get up as early as I get up, for the
Right.
morning to go to school? But I really like that buffer. One of the things my mom did for me was she taught me about mental health days. And I usually teach parents about, hey, how do you teach people about your kids about physical health, like if you have a headache, you have a tummy ache, hey, we might not have to
Hmm.
go to school, but the importance of mental health days. And I really like the buffer and you really saying that. And I think what's also important when you said of ask for help. And I think in this area, because a lot of people are not from the DMV, I think there's loneliness. A lot of parents feel like they don't have anybody to help or just their own fears around letting people into that. And so something I want is kind of what does it look like building a parenting like village? Like what does that really mean? Like having support. And I think sometimes people are fearful of stepping out because of that judgment of are
Hmm.
people going to judge the way that I'm parenting? Like, are people going to say something about my kids? I think sometimes this area, the DMV area, is very competitive. Um,
Hmm.
but just kind of how can parents find or foster that support, even if their immediate circle is limited? What are some suggestions that you would offer?
Well, I believe you can build your village, first of all, by starting with how you're living your life. So if you attend a church, look, there are people there's community there. Perhaps your children are participating in whatever house of worship you're in, whether it's a Sunday school program or some sort of kids program. There are other parents that are around that are involved there. So, and your children probably are friends with those children. So it would be natural that you would, get to know those parents. Also, the extracurricular activities your children might be in, sports, music lessons, whatever. Uh, the coach or the music instructor, they're part of your village. Now, they may not be someone you leaning on regularly, but they're helping shape who your child is. And they may have some ideas, if you have some questions about things. Your coach often acts as a mentor for your child. And then again, they're parents of the children who are involved in that. That's first of all, you can tap into a lot just really thinking about how you live your life. And then, of course, if there are any extended family members around in the area, or even your colleagues, to the extent that it's a natural connection. I mean, you don't want to force anything with your work colleagues, but if they have children the same age and things like that, then those are people that could come together and help be your support system.
I love that. So you have gifted the audience so many gems and jewels. What would be
Mhm.
one thing that you would want somebody to walk away, the audience, to walk away from this video? I think that the world's full of chaos and they're listening, but what would be one thing that you would want them to walk away? If they heard everything, but you can say, hey, take this one thing, what would you want the parents to take away from us tonight, from you tonight?
It really would go back to that whole thing about making connection before correction. That is so important, and recognizing that you are your children's first teacher, and so spend as much time as you can teaching, whether it's explicitly teaching, specifically sitting down and I'm going to teach you how to do this, but also remembering that they're learning from you every day in terms of how you interact with people. How do you respond when you've made a mistake? Are you kind to yourself? Do you respect yourself? And just as also just as much as the way you do things, the way you handle the tasks in your life. So definitely connect so that they can learn from you, especially during the time that you have them at home, and because certainly during the teen years, their peers are going to have a lot of influence with them as well. So embody that role as teacher.
Amazing. So where can people find you on the internet? Where are you? Where can people find you?
Well, on the social media platforms, I'm at the Parenting 411, and my website is carolmuleta.com.
All right. And so I thank you so much for coming out. I know that there's other things that I would love to have you back on the show that we could talk more about. But thank you so much for coming out and sharing your wisdom and your gifts.
Thank you.